welcome to the week 2 recap after a wild week 1 of NFL football, including the most boring Sunday Night Football game I may have ever seen. And thank God we only get 4 more Cowboys games in prime time. We finally have some rad Avenger League standings to look at and to ponder over and to dissect. So I'm just going to run through those real quick and give a quick recap of what happened in our league in week 1. We all watched the games. We don't really need a game recap of week 1 football. Really exciting. That early slate was incredible. The first witching hour, Scott Hansen just creamed all over the screen. So running down to the rankings here, Cameron, Green Bay Fudge Packers in first place, scoring 135 points, beating yours truly. John, 1-12, scored 129 to come into second place, beating Trevor. Raleigh in third place with 121, and he took down Wade. Andrew took down Tim this week. He's in fourth place with 118 points. Charlie scoring a whopping fat 97 points in fifth place. And then King of the Losers, me, with 116 points in sixth place. Wade with 111. Tim with 100 even. And then Trashley bringing it up the rear, 88 for Ashley and 87 for Trevor in last place. So that's how everything looks after 1 week of football. So a really exciting week 2 coming up. I'm going to start with a little bit of a different I'm going to start things a little bit differently. And basically all I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at what happened on the waiver wires this week. So just some important, or maybe some noteworthy ads this week. We had Wade pick up Jeff Wilson off the Elijah Mitchell news. We had Raleigh pick up Rex Burkhead. Sure, why not? We had Andrew pick up Jarvis Landry, which I kind of like. He looked pretty good in week 1. Jameis looks all the way back. Khalil Herbert was added by Tim. I picked up Gerald Everett off of the Darren Waller trade. Looks like Ashley added Matt Stafford. We'll see how that works out. And then Cameron went with Mecole Hardman and Dontrell Hilliard, which I actually really like the Hilliard pickup. Mecole, big play threat. I do like that. So that's the kind of the important news. There are some kickers and some defenses that people are streaming in here. Not really noteworthy, just some interesting things here and there. I also re-added Jamal Williams after dropping in for Mike Davis last week, so just a little swap around. So that was the important pickups. There was no huge names on the waiver wires this week. Jeff Wilson, you could argue, I guess, with Elijah Mitchell out, maybe poised to do some big things. But nothing crazy. I don't think there's anything, lineup changing going on with the ad drops this week. So we can just, jump right into the games here. And we'll start with first place. And actually, I didn't even realize this was a game this week. I'm doing this all off the cuff, by the way. I haven't looked at any matchups. This is all just right off dome. So we have number 1 and number 2 playing each other this week. Cameron versus 1-12 John. Highest scorer last week versus the second highest scorer last week. So we should just be in for some full-blown fireworks this week. So we'll start with the quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes playing against the Chargers this week. Hoping for a shootout, and not just because I have like 6 Chargers on my team. So really hoping for just points there. Russell Wilson against the Texans. I called Russell Wilson to throw for 600 yards last week, and there's a cat. I called for Russell Wilson to throw 600 yards last week. He didn't. He got embarrassed in Seattle. But he plays the Texans this week, and the Texans stink. And he could be on the Russell Wilson revenge tour now. He didn't play any preseason games, didn't have any warm-ups. Just kind of looked like he was trying to get in his groove in week 1. So maybe this is the week. I think I'll just call Russell Wilson to throw for 600 yards, and eventually at some point in the season he'll do it. The number 1 running back last week for Cameron is Saquon Barkley, and we have a nice running back matchup here with the Giants playing the Panthers. So Christian McCaffrey for John, Saquon for Cameron. Awful game. Nobody's going to watch it, but it's a fun little fantasy matchup. So when Red Zone does eventually switch to it, at least, we'll have that to look forward to. John predicted A.J. Dillon to be the number 1 running back this week, playing the Packers. Aaron Rodgers got embarrassed last week. It happened. and he doesn't take kindly to embarrassment. So, we saw last week when they lost, 38-3 to the Saints or whatever it was, and then came back and, just was the number one seed in the NFC. I don't think we'll see that big of a turnaround. I mean, number one in the NFC with no wide receivers is tough to do, but it's a weak division. And AJ Dillon, he's got the biggest quads on the planet. Darrell Henderson against the Falcons. I like that play. Cam Akers looked like dog shit in week 1. Darrell Henderson seems to be the guy there. So that was a good pickup for him against the Falcons, who are terrible. AJ Brown looked real good. Looked really good. Basically, the Eagles' offense is Jalen Hurts running for 20 yards. One of the 5 running backs they have running for like 6 yards are throwing to AJ Brown. Devontae Smith had a whopping 0 catches in week 1. Brandon Cooks against Denver. Brandon Cooks is a weird dude. I mean, obviously his team's awful. He's got Meek Mills throwing to him, who looked pretty good. So he's a safe bet. Denver could be out to prove something, so we'll see what happens there. Michael Pittman against the Jags for John. Jags are terrible. Michael Pittman's really good. Seems like an easy matchup. The Colts kind of the same boat. They looked real bad in week 1 after all the preseason expectations. And then Stephon Diggs is just a monster for Cameron. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You're playing Tennessee. He's probably going to go off. He does it every week. And then in the flex, we got a real interesting thing here with Courtland Sutton. Kind of a stack here for John, which is probably going to run through the season with Russell Wilson and Courtland Sutton. I know he's high on Courtland Sutton. I'm high on Courtland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy looked incredible in week 1. By incredible, I mean he had 1 really good catch and then 3 other pretty good ones. And then Alvin Kamara, who was kind of a disappointment in week 1, and he plays the Bucks, so that looks to be a real tough matchup. He is listed as questionable. Let me see what the report is on him right now. Like he's got a bad rib, limited Wednesday. So according to this, it says he's good to go in week 2, but once again, he's playing the Bucks, and he didn't look great in week 1. So we'll see how that plays out. The website here has this listed as a 103 to 115 matchup. Once again, website hates John's team. I don't know why, it just hates John's team. So 12.5 point spread here. Cameron does look unstoppable. I mean, that's just, he looks really good. I don't know that I can ever project against Cameron, especially after I just got embarrassed last week. He's the highest scorer in week 1. He looks kind of poised to do it here in week 2. The only real weak spot here is Alvin Kamara, which, if that's your weak spot, Jesus Christ. So I think I'm going to agree with the website here. I agree with the projections. And I'm going to go with Cameron over John in week 2. And John starts his trajectory down to 1-12. Cameron improves on his undefeated season and looks just poised to do great things to get the season going. So Cameron over John in week 2. So after going through high scores 1 and 2, we're just going to go right down the list here. We jump over to Raleigh, who had the 3rd highest score, playing Charlie, who had one of the lower scores of the week, but still pulled out a dub because that's what Charlie does. The website here has Raleigh projected as actually the highest score this week at 123. Charlie only projected 105, so about an 18-point difference here. But once again, same as last week, who is going to bet against Charlie at this point? Raleigh's had pretty good luck against him. I don't think Charlie ever got him last year. In fact, I know he didn't, because I think only myself and Trevor ever beat him. If Charlie has one kryptonite, it's Riley, who has just been dominating for 2 years now, which is just makes me want to vomit to even say. Looking at the matchups here, Joe Burrow, embarrassed in week 1, highest turnovers of his career. He gets just a piddling Dallas team in week 2. At Dallas, Dak's not going to play, which honestly could be to the detriment of Joe Burrow, because they should just dominate that game pretty easily, be up for most of the game, and he may not even throw a pass in the second half realistically. But if he does, if it is a little bit closer than intended, and Joe Burrow can stay in the game, he should have a real nice game. Lambjack against Miami for Raleigh. That's a weird one, actually. Actually, that's a really good game. Might be the game of the early window going on there in Baltimore. So, we don't really know what to make of Miami because we don't really know what to make of the Patriots right now. They didn't look great in week 1, the Patriots, that is. Miami looked pretty good. Miami historically has had a pretty good defense the last couple years. But that, of course, was with Ryan Flores. Their defense looked pretty good, but there's no offense in New England, so we don't really know what to make of that. Lamb Jack still, same problem, no targets. Devin Duvernay looked pretty good, but it's Devin Duvernay. Rashad Bateman looked okay. And then in the running back matchup, Zeke and Aaron Jones for Raleigh. Now, if John is correct and AJ Dillon has a monster game, that could be Raleigh's downfall here. If AJ Dillon starts popping off, there's a hot hand, they start feeding him the ball, and especially if they're up big against the Bears and they just kind of want to grind some clock. AJ Dillon is more of their kind of ground and pound guy. Aaron Jones, great receiving threat. So if Aaron Rodgers goes scorched earth and wants to just toss the ball over the yard against the Bears, which he very much could do, that would be kind of the path to victory there for Aaron Jones. And then on the other side, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, both kind of disappointing in week 1. Nick Chubb got vultured a lot by Kareem Hunt. They play the Jets this week. It's still, obviously Nick Chubb is the number 1 back there, but Kareem Hunt got a lot of touches and a lot of important touches in the red zone. So that's what would terrify me about Nick Chubb right now, and actually why I canceled a trade for him. That was a trade in week 1. Spoiler, I didn't tell anybody. Derrick Henry, Monday night against Buffalo. That Buffalo defense is disgusting. Now last year Buffalo and Tennessee played on a Monday night, and Tennessee got the better of them. So there's a chance here that Derrick Henry pops off. This is Buffalo's downfall. They had a big week 1, maybe a little letdown spot off the hype of week 1 in Arizona, and then in LA, and then going all the way back to Nashville. 2 back-to-back road games to start the season. I'm still not going to bet against the Bills though. So that's a little bit of wishful thinking for Charlie there. Which, fuck him, I don't wish for anything for him. And then we get into the wide receivers, which is where Raleigh just dominates. And Kupp, Chase, Evans. The bright spot here for Charlie is that the Saints are playing, or the Bucs are playing the Saints this week. And historically, Evans has not had, a lot of success against the Saints. Actually, the Bucs just in general have not had success against the Bucs have not had success against the Saints since Tom Brady's been there. Tom Brady actually 0-4 in the regular season against the Saints. And I kind of look for that to continue. Tom Brady didn't look incredible. He didn't look like Tom Brady in week 1. He didn't really have to because the Cowboys were that bad, so he didn't really have to put the team on his back or anything. Leonard Fournette actually looked really good in week 1. And of course, he's sitting over there on the other side on Charlie's team. So I think that's probably going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I think they kind of try to feed Fournette, maybe limit what Tom Brady's doing out there. Once again, he hasn't had great things against the Saints. Saints kind of seem to have his number there, except for that one playoff game. And this isn't a playoff game. This is week 2 against a weak division. I think they look to feed Fournette here, get the ground game going, try to establish that, and hopefully escape New Orleans with a win for their part. But I do think Charlie has the advantage in that, Fournette-Evans matchup. And then we look at, the tight ends, which isn't really a big, Dallas Goedert versus Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is obviously more talented. Goedert has the better offense. Goddard, however you want to pronounce it, has the better offense, and he gets a little Monday night, if he ends up behind, he's got some Monday night magic behind him. But definitely the one to keep an eye on here for this matchup is this Evans-Fournette matchup. That's, it all depends on the game plan for the Bucs, and historically, I think, it says the matchup says against the Saints matchup says run the ball. So, but Kupp and Chase, that's just gross. If Burrow does what I think he's gonna do against Dallas, I think T. Higgins is still out. Tyler Boyd's going to be their number 2 option. Chase is just going to get fed the ball, and then Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp, and they play the Falcons. So, once again, I'm going to agree with the website here. I might just go chalk this week across the board, except for my matchup because I'm projected to lose, and I'm not going to. So I'll go Riley here pretty handily, I think. Even if Fournette just dominates Mike Evans, I think the rest of this lineup is just too much for Charlie to handle. I didn't even really touch his wide receivers. DK Metcalf, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, both really talented wide receivers. I don't think Seattle's going to come back and do what they did in week 1 again in week 2, especially against a 49ers team that got embarrassed and is probably looking to prove a point here. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, obviously he's very, very good. They play the Commanders, pretty decent matchup. But it's the Lions, so how much can you really trust them? So I'll go Riley here in week 2, knocking off Charlie, knocking him down to 1-1, and setting up Riley as 2-0 headed into week 3. So once again, going down the rankings list here, Andrew in 4th place, 1-0 against Wade at 0-1. So, you know, Andrew looking to keep undefeated, Wade looking to get on the board for the season. Let's see, website has this 112 to 105 in favor of Andrew here. And actually, as we speak, Andrew is looking for some advice on Mike Williams, which I will be touching on a little bit later. So, you know, Jalen Hurts on Monday night, obviously having your quarterback on Monday night feels great. I do personally believe that Justin Herbert is going to light the fucking world on fire tonight in Kansas City. They may not win, I'm not projecting that, but obviously points, AFC West matchup, 2 of the, you know, my top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the league. I love Justin Herbert. I will forever. He's just incredible. Probably my 2nd favorite quarterback in the league right now, behind old Joshy boy. Then on the other side, if you look at my dream team, I projected Joe Mixon to have a huge game, and kind of that piggybacking off a lot of what I've already said about the Bengals playing the Cowboys. Cowboys stink. They should just dominate that game, especially when they get up early. Joe Mixon, you know, they just kind of feed him the ball, running the clock. You know, we may see a healthy dose of Samaje Perine coming in and some mop-up duty, but I think there's enough there for Joe Mixon to get some points early on and just kind of be able to coast in through the second half. I think he's going to dominate this game. Wade, the running back core is just decimated. You know, we had Elijah Mitchell go down. He's got Najee Harris nursing an injury. So he's starting Jeff Wilson, which, I mean, if he's running in a committee, which, you know, typically San Francisco seems to do, especially with Debo coming out of the backfield a lot. I mean, in week 1, Jeff Wilson had, 30 total yards, 2 receptions. So, you know, came away with 4 points. Not great. But he gets a full game against the Seahawks, who, once again, I do not think are going to repeat their performance in week 1. I think they are going to get blown out by the 49ers. I think the Geno magic is kind of a flash in the pan. We may see it again later this season, but I don't think it's going to be this week. Other side, Damian Harris for Andrew. He's touchdown dependent. We know that. I mean, he's Damian Harris. What more is there to say? And then we go down to the wide receivers, Adam Thielen and Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis dominated in week 1. You know, kind of picked up where he left off out of the playoffs. I have been a noted Gabe Davis non-believer. And I got shit on in week 1, so maybe I'm all the way back on Gabe Davis. I mean, the thing is, Josh Allen just throws the ball so much, and he throws it so far, and he's so good, and he's so accurate that I guess conventional wisdom just says any wide receiver in that lineup, any starter, is just fantasy relevant. So I'm not going to predict Gabe Davis to have a bad game. Actually, Andrew here has a lot of Monday night people. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 people going Monday night if you throw in the kicker. So Jalen Hurts, Adam Thielen, Gabe Davis, and Greg Joseph. So no lead is safe here. Wade also does have some people going on Monday night. Justin Jefferson, obviously the big ticket item there. Dominating performance in week 1. How many points did he have? 34.9. 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Justin Jefferson looks unstoppable on top of the world. Could be a really good game against the Eagles, who do have a really good defense, better than the Packers, that's for sure. So we'll see what they can do to limit him. I don't think they're going to be successful. I don't think anybody's going to be successful this year. At this point, he looks to be excuse me, the best wide receiver in the league, best wide receiver in football. Aaron Rodgers said best player in the game. So, you know, having that little tidbit in your back pocket on Monday night doesn't hurt. And then Kelsey and Andrews, number 1, number 2 tight end in the league. Kelsey goes tonight, and once again I think is going to be just an absolute shootout. So that should bode well for Andrew getting a lot of touches to Travis Kelsey. I think both teams should be slinging the ball all over the yard, and Kelsey is obviously Mahomes' favorite target. He's his best target, so that should bode real well for Andrew. If we look in the flex spots, DJ Moore against Elijah Moore, the battle of the Moors. They're both average. with average to bad quarterbacks, and they play each other. No, they don't. Yes, they do. No, no, I'm getting confused because Elijah Moore plays Cleveland, and I'm thinking about Baker on Carolina. No, they do not play each other. Elijah Moore plays the Browns. DJ Moore plays the Giants. So they might as well play each other because the Giants and the Browns are both dog shit. That was real confusing for a second. Anyway, I think DJ Moore's probably got an edge there against the Giants, but it's a toss-up. Elijah Moore is obviously a lot better, but he's got Joe Flacco throwing to him. I mean, looking at this, it's hard to bet against Justin Jefferson, especially with them only projecting Jefferson for it's a hilariously low amount of points, I believe. I'm not really showing it here. Anyway, Justin Jefferson should pop off on Monday night, prime time. You know, he's got to prove what he's got to do. I'm actually going to go with my first upset of the week here. And I'm going to go with Wade getting his first win of the season. And a lot of that is on the back of Justin Herbert, who once again I think could have 30, 35 points tonight. And then Justin Jefferson on a Monday night. You know, it's going to be really close. Wade's butthole is going to be just minuscule all night because there's 4 Monday night players for Andrew versus his 2, which one of them is his kicker. So, you know, it's going to be a lot of get up early and hold on. But I do think, oh, I just realized he's starting Juju Smith-Schuster. Ooh. Which, once again, if there's 70 points tonight, that bodes well. So I am going to go with Andrew here. Or sorry. Excuse me. I'm going to go with Wade getting out to 1-1. Andrew dropping to 1-1. And Wade finally getting on the board of the season in the first upset projected this week. So Wade is the final answer after a long, confusing ramble. And confusing myself with the Baker Mayfield Cleveland thing and Wade. So that was a tough recap. Let me go ahead and apologize to Wade and Andrew for that one. That was shit. Anyway, Wade gets the win here. Now for what it could be the most hotly contested, most shit-talked game this week. Myself versus Tim. I'm just assuming we have plans to watch Red Zone together, so I will be physically actually shitting down his throat this week. Not just in fantasy, but in real life, I will open his mouth and shit down his throat. That's whether he wins or loses. I'm just going to do that for fun. We've talked about it. I don't have a player playing after the 325 slot on Sunday, which makes me want to vomit because Tim has 2 players on Monday night, those being Josh Allen and Dalvin Cook, so his number 1 overall pick and the number 1 quarterback for, 2 years in a row now. So that's pretty terrifying. Kyler Murray gets the Raiders here. Hopefully he bounces back after week 1. He looked like ass in week 1. Actually, he was the 7th rated quarterback in week 1. He looked fine from a fantasy perspective, but if anybody watched that game, they should know that was all garbage time points. Josh Allen gets the Titans in what could be a revenge game. Actually, I think I said earlier that they were playing in Nashville. That game is actually at home in Buffalo, so yikes. They should dominate that one, actually. So take back everything I said for earlier, but, whatever. Running backs here, Jonathan Taylor gets the Jaguars, which I kind of love it and I kind of hate it. The thing that scares me here is that Matt Ryan tries to come out and prove a point in week 2, tries to throw it around, tries to get Michael Pittman involved. And of course, I will be yelling at the TV if that happens. Colts offense runs through Jonathan Taylor. There's not a lot more that needs to be said. And when they try to get away from it, well, we saw what happened last year with Carson Wentz. They lost to the Jags. They didn't go to the playoffs. So feed Jonathan Taylor and win the game. That's pretty much the recipe there. Bright spot here, the Jags are the Jags. So they should be up. They should be running the ball a lot. Jonathan Taylor should get a healthy dose of touches. Dalvin Cook on Monday night. The Eagles defense actually looks really good. They got a lot of big guys up front. So we'll see how much the Vikings actually try to run the ball. Obviously Justin Jefferson looks unstoppable, so hopefully they just feed him and we don't have to worry about Dalvin Cook. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably going to be the biggest headache I have all year. Came out, week 1 he had 42 yards on the ground, 32 through the air. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 21 points. He was the running back 6 last week. He looked incredible, and then they got up and they handed the ball to Isaiah Pacheco a lot. So he looked good. He catches the ball. Isaiah Pacheco looked real good, and a lot of that could have just been that they were just dominating the Cardinals. Hopefully tonight when they play the Chargers, who should be a little bit more competitive, hopefully they stick with Edwards-Helaire, keep him in the game, and I don't expect a repeat of 20 points, but I just don't. I would be terrified if I see Isaiah Pacheco come out in any time in that first quarter, because I think they like what they saw in week 1. And then Austin Eckler, obviously, what else needs to be said? Austin Eckler is incredible. Chargers are going to put up a lot of points. Chiefs are going to put up a lot of points. So we have a little bit of a running back battle between two starters, and obviously Eckler is going to have the advantage. Mike Williams. So Andrew, this is for you as you're typing your answers here. Who is your other option in this league? Actually, I'm gonna swap over leagues. Debo and Gabe Davis versus Mike Williams. I guess you could put Breece Hall and go Thomas in the slot and put Breece Hall in the flex. But I'm gonna let you in a little secret. Mike Davis had 2 catches last week. If we look all of last year, which the website doesn't let me do, but if we look at last year, Mike Williams was one of the biggest boom or bust players empirically that I can remember. And I think this is a boom week. And what sucks is I'm going to start him every single week because I love the Chargers and I love Justin Herbert and I want any bit of Justin Herbert that I can get. I think Mike Williams pops the fuck off this week. Keenan Allen's out. So, it's basically Mike Williams, Gerald Everett, and that other kid that they had that looked really good. Justin Herbert is kind of got a little bit of Josh Allen in him where he'll just throw to anybody and everybody. So it's not like he's going to just feed Mike Williams just over and over again. I don't think he's going to have 10, 11, 12 receptions, but I'm kind of seeing a couple big plays, maybe 5, 6 receptions and 100 plus yards, a couple big bombs, a touchdown or 2. So I do think Mike Williams is going to have a huge game. I think he's going to take a huge advantage of Keenan Allen out. I think the game plan is going to kind of run through there. So Andrew, start Mike Williams, and I'm probably going to be wrong. So, yikes. Alan Lazard didn't play in week 1. Is he coming back in week 2 to recover from his foot? Yeah, okay. So they're still kind of waiting on some practice results there for Alan Lazard to see if he's even going to be able to go. But obviously, if he does, we saw Aaron Rodgers in week 1 throwing to the wideouts he has when the Lazard is out, and it looked like he was going to set the whole stadium on fire. And then on top of that, he's playing the Bears, and he gets them at home. He loves dominating the Bears. We talked about it. He hates the NFC North. He loves nothing more than embarrassing the NFC North, and especially Chicago. So if Alan Lazard is healthy and Aaron Rodgers goes scorched earth, which he probably should, Alan Lazard should dominate because I think he's going to be the only guy Aaron Rodgers trusts to throw to. Then we got T-Mac and Hollywood. Very similar setups here. They're kind of just relying on the big play. Terry McLaurin, I've talked about him a lot. I mean, he only had 2 catches last week, but one of them was like a 56-yard touchdown, so that kind of saved his afternoon. Kind of scares me, but he's playing the Lions. Should be a bigger game plan. It's weird to say that after all I've talked about all season about him being the only option there. I mean, Jahan Dotson looked incredible. Curtis Samuel is back and looks incredible. The Commanders, they have a terrible quarterback. Like let's put that out there. They have a very, very below average quarterback. That wide receiver room is actually getting disgusting with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Jahan Dotson. If they could get even an above average quarterback, they would be actually really scary. But they don't. So Terry McLaurin, he's a little bit hamstrung by Carson Wentz, but he's still, in my eyes, the best option on that offense. So should get improved touches, should get improved targets, and we'll see what happens. Now here's the big one. I traded Darren Waller this week for Michael Carter, which, you say what you want to about that. I needed some backup at running back, and I am once again a huge Justin Herbert believer. So any stock I can get in Justin Herbert without actually having him, I'm gonna take it. Mike Williams, obviously I've talked about him. Gerald Everett was my replacement for Darren Waller. He was the, I believe, number 4 tight end last week, 54 yards and a touchdown, really solid. Darren Waller did look really good in week 1. I mean, he had 79 yards. He gets the target share. I do think that Derek Carr is kind of forcing the ball to... Sorry, the cat just licked my toes. Freak me out. I think Darren Waller is I think Derek Carr is kind of forcing the ball to Devontae Adams. Maybe he gets a little bit away from that in week one. I think he was just excited to have a new toy, so he could go back to Darren Waller over the middle a lot. But 4 catches for 79 yards. He had a really solid week. I mean, he's a touchdown away from probably being the number 3 or 4 tight end of the week. But Gerald Everett got that touchdown. And he looks really good in a game that I think they're going to score a lot of points. Should have a lot of red zone opportunities. So I decided to take a chance there. Michael Thomas looks all the way back. What did he have? 57 yards for 2 touchdowns. 57 yards for 2 touchdowns. Had 8 targets in week 1, which is pretty good. Jameis Winston looks back. So 5 catches, 57 yards, 2 tutters. And that's without having any kind of relevance in the first half, because the Saints looked lost in the first half and came all the way back. Counterpoint here, they play Tampa Bay. So that could be a tough matchup. Now the website here has it projected as a 105 to 109 victory for Tim. Now last week I did pick against myself, and that was more of Cameron's return, destiny, fate, whatever you want to call it. It's not happening again. I'm going to 1-1. Tim's going to 0-2, starting the week off, or starting the season off in come from behind fashion. So I will win this game. Sorry, Tim. It's gonna happen. There's nothing you can do about it. Eat a cock. Last matchup I have this week, because I was going down the rankings, we have the Stevenson Bowl. We have the Trashley Bowl. We have Trevor versus Ashley, bringing it up the rear, 9th and 10th place. Ashley in 9th, Trevor in 10th. Just let that sink in for a second. It should be a really fun week at the Stevens' house. If they want to host Red Zone, that'd be crazy, just so we could watch the divorce happen in real time. Mentioned it earlier when I kind of did the waiver wire recap. Ashley did pick up Matt Stafford against the Falcons. Playing in LA again. Matt Stafford looked awful in week 1, but obviously that was against the Bills, so you can't really take a lot from that. I think he should look to have a bounce back week. So I actually really like that pickup for this week. Maybe going forward we'll see, but for week 2 I really like that. I think he's gonna come back out with something to prove. I don't think he played in the preseason, so kind of a tune-up game as well. But on the other side, you got Aaron Rodgers against the Bears. We know Aaron Rodgers against the Bears should be a fun month. It should be a fun Sunday night for him, just dominating. Devin Singletary looked real good in week 1 for Trevor. I say real good. He had 7 points. He looked real good compared to Devin Singletary standards and compared to Bill's running back standards. Kind of got helped out by James Cook just fumbling the first touch he ever had in an NFL game. So I think he's going to be kind of relegated to the bench for a while. So Devin Singletary should have some good opportunities there. David Montgomery, God, these running backs. David Montgomery against the Packers. Sorry, I didn't mean to take that shot against y'all. David Montgomery against the Packers. David Montgomery looked pretty solid in week 1. What did he have? 6.5 points. Never mind. I think I just saw him have 1 decent run on red zone, and that was probably it. Oh yeah, it's even the highlight here. 16-yard catch and run. That was when I saw that on red zone, and that's where I got that entire take from. Now the Chicago Bears, it's kind of hard to know what they look like with the new coach, with what Justin Fields is doing in year 2, just because that game in week 1, I mean, the weather, it's kind of hard to say that either the Bears or the 49ers are good or bad, just because it was such a weird game. Javonte Williams, I've been just raving about all season, and he had 14.3 points. He did fumble at one point, but what is that? 98 total yards, a couple receptions. He looks to be the guy. Melvin Gordon, he's kind of still splitting carries there, but Melvin Gordon's old. He didn't really touch the ball as much. And he gets a favorable matchup against the Texans. Antonio Gibson looked really solid, filling in for Brian Robinson at this point. 72 yards receiving. So he is their receiving threat. 58 yards on the ground, had 16.5 points. So, until Brian Robinson comes back, he's gonna be the guy. He's gonna be a starting running back. So we'll see what happens when Brian Robinson comes back. But Antonio Gibson, real solid play for the time being for Ashley. Now we do pick up a little bit here with the wide receivers. I actually love the wide receivers here. Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill for Trevor. Tyreek Hill looked real good in his Dolphins debut. Had 94 yards through the air, 6 on the ground. 14 total points, didn't score a touchdown. Jalen Waddle kind of took that touchdown, and actually Jalen Waddle is right on the other side. He had 15.7, 69 yards, yes sir, through the air, including a touchdown, 8 yards on the ground. So that's kind of an interesting battle. But the big thing here is they play the Ravens. And the Ravens, their pass defense has not been great the past couple years, but it's still the Ravens. So, I mean, if Tua has a bad game, that could just lead to just 0 points here. Good thing here is that's kind of even wash money. If Tua's good, he's kind of seems to be splitting the ball pretty evenly between those two. If he's not, then neither team scores, and it's no harm, no foul. So it's kind of an interesting one to keep an eye on. Tyreek Hill versus Jalen Waddle. I think it's really going to be who scores the touchdowns. They kind of split even yardage, even targets, even attempts. Obviously, Jalen Waddle has the history with Tua, but Tyreek Hill is just a better player. So interesting, but I don't think it's going to be a real deciding factor in this game. And then also for Ashley, you got Deebo Samuel against the Seahawks. We've discussed that 49ers-Seahawks game. I think the 49ers are going to just clown the Seahawks, maybe even throttle them, possibly even embarrass. Whatever adjective you want to use. And obviously, if they do, Deebo Samuel's just a huge part of their game plan. So, it should be a pretty dominating matchup. James Conner, just a touchdown machine. 26 yards on the ground, 29 receiving. It's not a great yardage day, but of course he scores a touchdown because that's all he does is he just scores touchdowns. 10 carries, five catches, so only 15 touches. Of course, the Cardinals were just not looking good in week 1. I think they should look better this week against the Raiders. So maybe he improves the touches a little bit, but as long as he just keeps putting touchdowns, because he keeps putting the ball in the end zone, he's going to be an auto start. Josh Jacobs is still really interesting just because of how Josh McDaniels likes to play. 57 yards on the ground, 16 catches, 16 through the air, 7.8 points total. We'll see what they do against the Cardinals. So we have another matchup there. Josh Jacobs versus James Conner playing in the same game. Website here has it 112-109 in one of the closer games this week. Actually, in fact, I think the closest. I think all the other ones, No Line and Tim was like 4 points. So that is projected to be the closest game this week. So the Trashley Bowl should be real hot. And obviously, unless something just absolutely wild happens with the points, this is also a battle for last place to start the season. They have Trevor winning. It's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers against the Bears, but also Matt Stafford should light it up. Ooh, I think just because I'm a believer in Jalen Waddle, I'm actually going to go with Ashley here. Getting her first win of the season and putting Trevor behind the 8 ball to start the season. I do think Trevor's team is good enough that he'll be able to climb back out of this hole. But I do think Ashley takes the matchup in week 2, puts Trevor in last place, and just dominates the household for the next week. So that's the preview. So just to run back through the picks, and as a reminder, was 4-1 last week. So obviously whatever I say here is going to happen. I am the Oracle. I am a time traveler. So I have myself beating Tim. I have Raleigh taking down Charlie. I have Ashley beating Trevor. I have Cameron beating John. And then I have Wade taking down Andrew. Those are the final picks. Good luck this week, everyone. Let's have some fun tonight. We have a great Thursday night game. Y'all be safe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.